Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's talk about and taste some of the less discovered villages of Burgundy where exciting wines can still offer real value. Although when I was preparing for this video, a fellow sommelier teased me and said, Burgundy and value? Agnes, I thought you were studying at the Institute of Masters of Wine. So, with increasingly challenging weather patterns and hotter, drier growing seasons so many winemaking regions are experiencing, it is only natural to raise a question. Will we be able to continue making the classic wine styles associated with these regions, or should we start to look somewhere else? Now, I am not one to start panicking. I am sure that most of our beloved winemaking regions will keep producing top quality wines, at least for our lifetime. I hope they do. But if climate change has taught us anything, it is the importance of better understanding of our land and the wines we are working. So it is both changing weather and improved viticulture practices that have allowed us to search for new and exciting terroirs. With this in mind, I thought instead of looking straight to new winemaking regions, why not revisit some of those so-called lesser villages of Burgundy? And by lesser, I don't mean lower quality, despite the fact many books and blogs describe some of the appellations I have gathered here as producing wines with less finesse, less elegance, and more rusticity. But what I actually mean by lesser is that they simply do not receive the same praise or accolades as their more famous neighbors. And yet, thanks to changing weather patterns, better plant material, and more precise viticulture and winemaking, these areas are now offering great quality wines. Maybe they can even spark some interest for those looking for better value in Burgundy. I know, it is a very sensitive topic, but I hope you understand where I'm going with this. Anyhow, I did some reading and research and added some of my own thoughts when selecting the wines for today's topic. And as promised, I will not be talking too much about value here, even though I do believe that all of these appellations are much more wallet-friendly than the more famous and highly recognized names of Burgundy. Whether they actually hold their ground, we will see now once I start tasting them, at least for me. In fact, I would argue that there are plenty of villages and appellations and areas to choose from. Some may be more recognizable and successful than others, so please comment in the section below which ones I should revisit next time. But now, let's start with tasting. I will start with a quite low-hanging fruit here. I do not think many of wine lovers need convincing that Saint-Aubin is an absolutely amazing appellation to look for great wines. I wanted to say value, but I didn't want to do that. I fell in love with the Saint-Aubin a while ago, and I'm happy that it has blossomed in this absolutely beautiful and magical appellation. It used to be an appellation where grapes could not reach their full maturation reliably every year. I do not think that is a huge issue lately, maybe in some especially cool and damp vintages. And I guess I will always use an opportunity to taste or simply enjoy one of Hubert Lamy's wine. So Hubert Lamy is top producer in the area, and he's also really into these high density plantings. He's going back to his roots. There are a lot of podcasts and interviews out there with the winemaker where he talks about the high density planting and why that actually matters when it comes to quality winemaking, when it comes to concentration in the wines. So maybe I'm slightly cheating here, but I wanted to highlight specifically this producer. I wanted to highlight this appellation because let's be honest, I am tasting now one of the top producers of the area, and this is still two-digit number wine. Yes, it is a village wine. It is not Premier Cru. We do have Premier Cru sites in Saint-Aubin, but still, it is relatively affordable if we are comparing it with the rest of the well-known appellations, and especially if we are talking about top high-tier producers. So let's taste this wine. So this is 2020 Saint-Aubin La Princee. And I love the nose immediately. It is a classic white Burgundy. It screams classic white Burgundy. Some of my, oh my God, the tension here on the palate, the freshness, the acidity, the kick. I wanted to tell you that some of my colleagues, fellow sommeliers, they often describe Hubert Lamy's style as being this really tight and maybe closed. I have never felt that. I am usually someone who prefers more open, more generous wines, but I do think that there's a lot of tension here. I don't find these wines tight or closed. There's just this beautiful, zesty, fresh, lively acidity, but it holds all the ripeness of the fruit just, you know, in a perfect balance. And I feel the same here. You kind of have these ripe white stone fruits, really ripe white apple and pear, and maybe, you know, bruised melon. But nothing seems tight or closed, you know. It seems really open and inviting still. No, I love it. I love this style so much. So this was intentionally put here for me to taste. And on the palate, I mean, the freshness, the nerviness this wine offers. There is no doubt that at least in top producers' hands like Hubert Lamy, Saint-Aubin offers an amazing quality. We could discuss about the value because that is true. Saint-Aubin, especially during the last years, during the last decade, has been really creeping up in the prices. But I mean, it is still a fraction of what is asked by some of the top appellations. So I will give this wine, I love it. It is village level. I love it. I will give this wine 94 points. I think I still have the aftertaste here, and it is just zesty, fruit packed. It is not just the acidity, the freshness that you feel. It is just that really crunchy, but at the same time ripe, fruit packed aftertaste. I love it. Let's move to wine number 2, which is kind of interesting choice from my side, but I guess I really wanted to highlight some of those less discovered appellations and villages of Macon, because now we have Premier Crus in Pouilly-Fuissé. I remember 15 years ago, I was talking about Pouilly-Fuissé with some friends of mine, some sommeliers, and we said, maybe, you know, they deserve to have their Premier Cru sites, but it will probably never happen. And look at this really traditional, beautiful winemaking region, Burgundy, and we do have Premier Crus in Pouilly-Fuissé. But that means one thing. Now, these wines cost way more. For some wines, I have seen up to 30, even 40% price increase. And so, you know, these are still the same wines. They have not changed much, you know. These are still the same terroirs. Winemaking for many of the wine producers are still the same. It is the price increase. We are paying more for the Premier Cru. But some of us knew those Liodis before, so we knew exactly what we were looking for. And now, with these changes, I wanted to highlight other villages around Pouilly-Fuissé. And this is really interesting because Saint-Veran appellation kind of hugs Pouilly-Fuissé. We have some of the vineyards from one side and some of the vineyards from the other side. So it makes sense to look for these continuations of these better known appellations and villages. It is also very interesting to me that some of the villages of Saint-Veran used to be bottled under Beaujolais label. But I think maybe 12 years ago or 10 years ago, I really got excited about this specific appellation. And at that time, it was just so cheap. It was really affordable. So I thought that I haven't talked about it on this channel, so maybe I should put it in the tasting and see how it has developed. Merlin is often described as the wizard of the, I think it's Olivier, Merlin, as the wizard of the Chardonnay in Macon. So let's taste their wine. And this is 2023 vintage. Okay, so on the nose, definitely not as expressive, not as open, not as complex as Saint-Aubin, but then again, it is 3 times the price of Saint-Aubin. Okay, it's starting to open up. And we do feel some of the riper fruits here. You know, maybe not white apple, but more yellow apple, more reddish apple, riper character of pear, more melon. There's even something yellow like peach and apricot, those pink-skinned stone fruits that are much, much riper in character. And something creamy in the background as well. Yes, it is very interesting because at first, and now I will tell you a little secret, which has always puzzled my mind, I constantly mix Chablis and Macon in blind tastings. It has been done several times, and when I asked people around, some of them said, that's completely normal. But I thought, oh my God, like those two climates could not be further apart. Like one is really cool and the other one is much, much warmer. But here in the very beginning, I almost felt something green, like note of lima leaf or, you know, like lime peel. But now it just opens up and you feel that it is coming from a warmer climate. So maybe next time I'm doing a blind tasting, I should pay more attention or spend more time with wine. The issue is that usually blind tastings are under the time pressure. Okay, let's finally taste the wine. Okay, so this wine is a crowd pleaser and it might not pack the same tension and kick as the wine number 1 from Saint-Aubin, but I still think it is just beautiful and ripe and really charming and slightly voluptuous in its character, which is absolutely fine and absolutely beautiful. I think Saint-Veran kind of takes the place of Puy-Fusset, what it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, offering better value, offering that more luscious, more riper fruit character that maybe rest of the Burgundy could not offer. I will give this wine 90 points. I think it's beautiful, especially given the price tag this wine has. I will always go for Saint-Veran instead of Macon Village. And yeah. Yes, that creamy depth on the nose and on the palate, that voluptuous body, that ripe fruit. There's definitely a lot of charm in this wine. Shall we move to the red wines? Okay, wine number 3 comes from an appellation that is quite difficult to pronounce, Auxey-Duresses, and it is 2021 vintage, which was really challenging and difficult vintage. So we should be honest with this wine as well. I think it is very exciting appellation. First of all, because it is located between two really good, great names of Cote de Beaune, which is Merlin and Volnay, and one is absolutely stunning with its white wines and the other is absolutely stunning with its red wines. And Auxey-Duresses can offer both whites and red wines. Currently, I have in my glass red wine from producer who's actually better known with its white wines, which is Thierry et Pascal Matrot. And I think currently there are 2 sisters who are managing the estate. Here, I will need a bit of this. By the color, you see immediately the Pinot Noir gene here. It is this thin-skinned grape variety. But on the nose, you also feel the Pinot Noir because you have these really ripe, beautiful, seducing red berries. But there's also some earthiness. I read that Matrot will always destem their fruit. It is really interesting because from the nose, I would guess that maybe 10 or 15% would be whole bunch. There is this earthiness that maybe kind of black olive or green olive in it. But it adds more like a complexity to the wine, not necessarily something that dominates the fruit. It is the fruit that shines. And there's also some lilac, some floral elements here on the nose. I do enjoy it. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much because if I'm being completely honest, this is not really expensive wine. It is expensive if we are talking about global understanding of wines. It is not as expensive if we are only focusing on Burgundy. So this bottle costs around 40 euros. And on the nose, it immediately kind of seduces me. I want to taste it. We do have these wild berries, wild strawberries, raspberries, maybe something blue here, you know, blueberry as well. But it's more these red, bright fruit driven flavors. So let's taste it. Wow. Impressive 13.5 alcohol, which I maybe felt a little bit. Maybe I thought that it swooped a bit the fruit away on the palate. Despite the fact that on the nose I don't feel it at all, I think it is really fruit dominated. It is really interesting because historically Auxey-Duresses used to be described as making a bit thinner or maybe not as open and expressive wines as Merlin or Volnay. And nowadays I would say that's not a problem because some of these better known appellations maybe make too much. Not necessarily all of them, of course, there are amazing examples out there. But like 13.5, impressive for an area which we used to describe as an area that could not ripen their grapes fully. Maybe I'm getting used to the mouthfeel, but the second sip felt more complex and more in balance than maybe the previous one. The acidity is beautiful and well integrated, playful, tiny, well balanced and well polished tannin. Like on the palate, when you taste the wine, you kind of understand that this could be fully destemmed fruit. And I do not feel alcohol playing as important role anymore when the second sip came. So definitely maybe it grows on you, but the nose is still what charms me the most. So I will give this wine 91 points. Let's move to wine number 4, which by many have been described as an absolutely amazing value when it comes to red Burgundy especially, and this is Savigny-les-Beaune from A.F. Gros. I think it's Anne-François Gros. It also talks more power than maybe wine number 3 did. This seems bigger and riper and more opulent, but we are also talking about 2 different vintages. So this is 2023. But there's much more ripeness here. It kind of whispers to me that it's going to be fuller in body than maybe the Matrot example was. So let's taste it. Well, here we definitely have more substance. It is not as light, it is not as delicate as the wine number 3 was. It is much more fuller, way more structured. I think there is some of that whole bunch in it, at least 20-30%. You kind of feel slight grip to the otherwise really elegant Pinot tannin. But here in this wine, the acidity packs a lot of power and a lot of freshness on its own, and maybe the whole bunch actually worked to add a bit of texture, a bit of structure to the wine rather than freshness, which we sometimes discuss it can do. I think it is completely different in style than the wine number 3, and it also speaks volumes about the vintages, about each specific terroir and the winemaker, you know, the soul behind the wine. We often forget to talk about the winemaking techniques and the hands of a winemaker because they also leave mark on the wine. And here we can see 2 completely opposite directions. I will give this wine 92 points. I think it offers amazing quality, amazing structure, great depth. I would drink wine number 3 today, and I would not be offended to open wine number 4 after 5 or 6 years. I think it could hold amazingly well. There's a lot of power in there. It's a quiet power. It is not Cabernet Sauvignon power, but there's still a lot of power in there. So here you go. These are my less known, less discovered villages, except for Saint-Aubin, but I really wanted to show it. I think I made another video where I talked about Fisson and Saint-Aubin, which I do enjoy a lot as well. And there's no way I think that Fisson is rustic, at least when it is in the right hands. So as discussed before, let me know in the comment section below which of the villages you think are less discovered and definitely deserve more attention from us, the wine lovers. And if you love Burgundy, definitely make sure to check out this video next.